Hi there. So in this video I will show you how to create this to-do list, and we will be using the following features of Google Sheets. Data validation, we will use drop-down lists, we will have date fields with the pop-up calendar, we will have the if formula, we will also use some conditional formatting for formatting the fields, and I will show you to finish off how you can sort your different tasks based on the header of the table. Okay, let's start off, and we will start by creating a new spreadsheet. So the first thing that we are going to do is we will have a task list, and we want to keep some information on every task. So I will start with a number of a task, and I can put something like this. We will have, of course, a task description, which will be a short description of the task at hand. We will give the task a priority. We will also do a follow-up of the status of the task. We will have a due date. We will have a category or a project, like you also can call it a project. And we will have number of days left to execute the task. And then we have some notes fields to enter some extra information that we want to keep. We will not mind the formatting right now. I can do that later. So the number will be 1, 2, and so on. And if I just select the two first numbers and I pull this down, that will be sorted automatically. And then the task description. Let's just imagine a couple of tasks. I need to cut down a couple of trees. I have to repair my bike. I have to paint a wall. I have to mow the lawn. And maybe a fifth task is to fix the window, something like this. Now, in order to attribute priorities and the status, I like to use drop-down menus because I always use a couple of values that will return for each and every task that I have here at hand. So let's create a couple of drop-down lists. I would just want to make, in this case, a second sheet, and I will call the second sheet backend data, with some data that I use to feed the other spreadsheet. And we were talking about the priority and the status of the task. We will have low priority. I'll just also use a number, medium priority. Try to keep the formatting a little bit more or less the same. Number 3 is, for example, high priority, and number 4 is urgent. Let's do something like this. And for the status, I can have a task planned, ongoing, cancelled task, for example. I can have postponed and done. Let's consider those 5 possible values for the status. Let's just change a little bit the formatting so it's very clear that priority and status are headers. To make it clear, we'll have some borders around it. And now that we have created that backend data, I can use it in my to-do list. So we have here the priority, and I want to select, of course, the priorities that I have created here in the backend data. So I'll just select the field, and this is actually how that we create drop-down list. You select the fields and you go to data validation. and there will be on the right hand side a pop-up for the data validation rules. I will add a rule, and first of all I need to apply the data validation to a specific range. Let's just stick to D4 right now, just this cell. I want to use a drop-down list, and I want to select the values from a specific range. And in this next field, I will type in where I need to fetch the data. So if I just click here, select the data range, I need to pull it right here. And I can, of course, type it in, but I can also go to the backend data and select here the 4 values that I want to use in my priority. I select OK. So those values are populated here. I can even attribute specific colors, but more important, I'd like to go into the advanced options and select arrow here, because that gives a nicer view from the drop-down. And you get something like this. And you can select the priority for that specific task. Now, if I want to have a drop-down for each and every one of my tasks, I can also go back here into the data validation rules and change the apply to range value. For example, I will select the complete column from 1 to 9 and I click OK. And now I have a drop down in each and one of the rows. And I click done here on the right hand side. Let's attribute a couple of priorities. Cut down trees is low, repair a bike is medium, paint a wall, oh, it's medium. I need to cut the grass very urgently, and fix the window is high. Okay, let's say we do the same thing for the status. What I can do, instead of selecting just the first field E4, I can select the complete range. I go back to data validation, and I add a new rule. You can see the drop-down is already visible here in that column. And I will also here select, of course, drop-down from a specific range. And I will go into backend data, and I will select here. No, I need to click first here, and then I do it like this. So the range is selected, backend data from delta 5 to delta 9. I click OK. Again, the different values are shown here in the data validation rules. I go to advanced options, and I will select again that the display style of the dropdown needs to be an arrow. I click done. I go back to sheet 1, and you can see the different drop-downs are available and are here to be used. So what is the status of my different tasks that I have here in my to-do list? So cut down trees is planned, repair a bike. Okay, I was already starting, ongoing. Paint a wall. It's planned. This is postponed, for example, because rain. It was raining. So I couldn't continue with mowing the lawn. And fix the window is quite urgent also, and I will have it planned. And I can put also a due date for my different tasks. And to enter dates and to avoid errors, we can use the pop-up calendar that is available in Google Sheets. It's like a date picker. So let me show you how to create a date picker. We select the field where we want to enter a date. Now I go to data validation, add a rule, and instead of in the criteria to select dropdown, I go to is a valid date. So the data validation rule will check if the date that I enter here is a valid date. In the advanced options, and if the date is invalid, I prefer to reject the input, so I select that. I click done. And now if I double click on the selected cell, F4, I will have a pop-up calendar that I can use to make the selection of the date that I want to be the due date. So let's say that we have cutting down trees on the 17th of May, and I will just enter some dates here right now to demonstrate. As you can see, I double click here, but no pop-up calendar is popping up. So what I can do is I go to this data validation rule of F4, I select it, and I will change the range. I will select the different cells that I want to be included in the range, and I click OK. And now I click done. And if I double click now on this cell, the date will pop up. Let's do something like this. Postponed, but still urgent. Let's say this weekend. And fix the window something in a couple of days. I can format this date to a format that I like. And since I live in Europe, I prefer it to be the day first and then the month. So I can click on this. And as you can see, the 17th of May 2024, I have planned to cut down the trees. Next step in my very easy to make to-do lists, I can also give a category or a project in which the tasks fits very well. So cutting down trees, let's say that's a garden thing. Repairing the bike is miscellaneous. Painting the wall is house. Activities, that's also a garden. Mow the lawn. And fix the window is also something from the house. This will allow me later, whenever I want to select my different tasks that fit together in a specific project or a specific category, to make a selection for that. Now, if I want to calculate the number of days that are still left before the due date is expired, we will use the if formula. So in this case, I want to calculate the number of days that are still left. So I will go up here in this formula bar, and whenever I want to enter a formula, we always start with an equal sign. And in this case, I want to check whether the due date is already expired, yes or no. And if that's the case, I want either to mention that the due date has been expired, or I want to calculate the number of days that are still left, and then I will show the number of days as a number. So in this case, I need to check something first, and that we do that with the if formula. If F4 is smaller than today, and today will give me the today's date value. If that is the case, then I will type expired. The task is expired. If that's not true, I will type number of days. And I will just type here number of days for a second because I need to enter here a calculation. But let's just demonstrate it like this. And I can accept the suggested autofill for now. So I need to calculate here the number of days because this value, the if value, says, okay, F4 is not smaller. The value here is false, as you can see. If I select this part here, it's a false value, so he will show you the number of days. But I need to calculate there the number of days are still left. So I will go back, and I want to calculate the difference between the due date and today's date. So I will have F4 minus today. And that's what I want to calculate, and I hit enter. When I'm making this video, we are the 8th and the 17th is the due date, so the number of days left are 9. Now, in order to adapt the different formulas in the other rows, I just select and drag to adapt. Now, as you can see here in task number 6, where I have no data, it says expired. So if I want to avoid this, I go back and I will grab this complete formula and I do a double check on it. So if F9 is empty, then I will fill in an empty in the field H9. If that's not the case, I will execute this formula and either it will be expired or I will calculate the number of days. So if I hit enter, okay, so it fills now in a blank. I can again drag this up and drag this down to adapt the formula in the different rows. And now I have the calculation of the number of days. And I can add also some notes here whenever there is rain. Now there is one thing that I did not include yet into this to-do list, but it's an important one, I think. And I will just insert a column here to the left, which is a checkbox where I can indicate whether a task is done, yes or no. So I just fill in here the header. I will select those different rows and I will go into insert checkbox. And as you can see, a checkbox appears here. When I select it, it's a true value, and when I unselect it, it's a false value. So with this included now in my to-do list, I can do a nice follow-up of my different tasks. Now, I also said that I would like to include some conditional formatting whenever I select, do a check mark that the task is done, that it's very visible, let's say, in the spreadsheet. So how do we do that? So I will select here my task lists. I will go to Format, Conditional Formatting. So as you can see, there are a lot of changes now here in this spreadsheet because the conditional formatting will, of course, besides selecting the complete table, also start formatting based on the rules that are initiated. And the basic initiation of a new rule is always if the cell is not empty, it will format it in a green style. That's why you can see that the different areas are where there is some values are in green. Now, of course, that's not what I want. What I want is change the formatting based on whether if there is a checkbox in the row of a specific task, then I want to change the formatting of that row. Okay, so how do we do that? I will go to custom formula and I will type in here a formula. As you can see right now, there is a blue border around this value or the formula itself. That gives an indication that at this moment, whatever is typed in there is like a valid formula. And even when it's a blank, it will accept it as a valid formula. Now, the formulas for conditional formatting are the same like classic formulas that I can use in different cells. Always start with an equal sign. And as you can see, Google Sheets now indicate here in red that something is not complete yet. So we need to change this formula here, this field here, until it turns blue again, and then it says, okay, this is a valid format rule that I can calculate. Now in this case, I want to check whether the C4 cell is been checked, yes or no. C4. And as I said, it needs to be false or true. When it's unchecked, it's false. Whenever it's checked, it's true. So I want to do some formatting. There is a check mark in the checkbox of done. So this needs to be equal to true. And if that's the case, then I will format it in green. If I click done right now, and if I just make a check mark, okay, you can see only the one gets a mark in green. Let me explain how this is happening. If we want to have a formatting, let's say for the complete row, what we need to adapt is we need to avoid that he will jump from C4 to D4. We can do that with the dollar sign. And as you can see, now when Google Sheets goes through the range from B4 to J4, he will always check C4. And when he comes to C5 to B5, he will start by checking whether B5 is true for that specific row. So if, for example, I check here, in this case, for all these values, Google Sheets will check whether C7 is true, yes or no. And as you can see, now I don't want to apply this specific formatting, and I will change a little bit. I want this to apply, and I want, for example, lighter gray, something like this, lighter gray, something like this. And one last thing that I want to show you is how that we can sort or filter out the different tasks that I have in my list, because this is a short list, but you can imagine that you can have a large list too. So we select the cells from B with the header cells selected. We go here to the create a filter icon. And when I click on it, you can see that there are some filter triangles mentioned besides each and one of the headers. And what you can do with this is you can, if you click on in the done column, you can filter by true or false. Let's say if you want to select all the true values, meaning the tasks that are executed, you unselect the false, you keep true selected, and you click OK. And now you have all the values of the tasks that have a check mark in the checkbox. If you want the inverse, the tasks that are still not done, you can do it like this. And you can also filter, for example, on the status. the plants one. Okay, I have two plants that are not done yet with those due dates. And in this way, you can easily filter and make a selection of the tasks at hand. Now to undo, you go back, select all, OK, select all, and OK. Now it's always nice to do some additional formatting, so I will just do that now, and just to demonstrate how quick and easy it is to have like a nice clean to-do list. This is a nice and short introduction on how to make a to-do list with some functionalities in Google Sheets. So if this was helpful, let me know by leaving a comment in the chat, and I will probably see you in the next video. Thank you.